but I felt so alive. I was chasing down a dream, like you always taught me to. But the evergreens and caffeine still remind me of you.
And welcome into the National Signing Day show presented by McDonald's. It's brought to you by the McDonald's app. Download the McDonald's app today and earn free food with every purchase and score a $7 bacon double cheeseburger meal. Dusty Hara, Mike Jorgensen. This is National Signing Day, and it is awesome that we are finally here. It's the culmination of all the recruiting.
Yeah, man, it just it comes around quick each year, and it never gets old, does it? Marshall?
Yeah, those double cheeseburgers sound great.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Even at 9:30 in the morning, we're going to be with you for the next hour going through all things Oregon Ducks football on National Signing Day. And our first guest is Marshall Malko, Chief of Staff of the Oregon Ducks. And look, today's the culmination of not just months, but it's actually kind of years of work that you guys put in to have a class. Fancy the portion of like today and, you know, guys who are interested in Oregon. When does this process start for you and your staff of evaluating talent, and how does that look for you guys?
Yeah, great question. I mean, we're so fortunate to be in year 3 now because that's when these relationships started. I know I can think back to when we first started here. It was tough because you had to build relationships in weeks to, you know, start the first signing day here. And now, you know, we've known these kids for a long time, and they've been on campus, and we always say that you have to be here 3 times in order to really get a feel for it. And some of these guys have been on campus way more than that, and honestly, like a lot of them have. And so, yeah, we really start, you know, it depends. It depends with every kid. Like certain kids like Toby this year, you know, he really came onto the scene late. There's some guys that you know right away, and they're great players as sophomores in high school. And you start building those relationships then. So you can never really tell, and we're really fortunate now to be in our third season, or through our third season, and really we've built relationships over 2 years, 3 years in some cases, and they've been great, and it's really benefited us. And the biggest thing for us is Coach Lanning. You know, he talked about a vision when he first came on as the head coach here, and now these guys see the vision. Yeah. And so, you know, it's not talk anymore. We're walking the walk, and they can see the vision of the program. And a lot of these guys have been to games and practices and meetings, so they really get a feel for the program. And when we first started, that wasn't the case. You're trying to say, like, this is what the meetings are going to be like. This is what this is who we're hiring at this position. And so it's been really fun. I mean, it's been a fun 3-year deal. And, yeah, for this to be the day to cap it all off, it's exciting.
How far back can you go? I mean, you talked about 2 to 3 years that you and the staff have been here and been able to work together, and you start to build that relationship. But how far can you, or sometimes do you, look at student-athletes in high school?
Yeah.
Beyond that?
A lot of times you really start the relationship when they're going into their junior year. So a lot of times that's the main focus. So September 1st of their junior year, and then you kind of get a real year and a half with them. But there's some cases where, like, there are guys that I can think about right now in state, and we knew that they were good enough to be a Duck as a sophomore in high school or a freshman in high school. And, you know, I got thoughts right now of guys that we want, and we knew we want them as sophomores. But to your point, we really start the majority of our recruiting September 1st of a guy's junior year. That's when you can start really communicating with them. We can reach out to them. We can start texting them, start calling them. You know, we still send mail to guys, which seems archaic, but, you know, it's still impactful.
Yeah.
So really going into junior year, we make sure all through August we watch film, and we know every player in the country and all those things. Like, you have June camp where, like, for this season upcoming, like we pretty much know the 2026 class that we're going to go after. There's going to be a couple guys like Toby that we go after, but the 2026s, we're setting our board right now. We're getting ready, and then the official visits will be in June. We're trying to get them up to a spring practice or up in May, and then but there's also 2027s. That's really when you try to get them to camp to know if they're going to be good enough for you when you go into junior year. So
you've mentioned him a couple of times, and I think he's one of the most interesting guys in this entire recruiting class and in the entire country. Toby Hastrup, who's from Texas.
Yeah.
What happens, and if folks don't know the story behind him, this is his first year of playing organized football. What happens when a guy comes on the scene like this and you start seeing coming across your desk film of this monster who's brand new to football?
Yeah, no, I mean, to your point, like for us, we were excited about the traits. And he's a great kid, high GPA, explosive, fast, strong. I mean, I think back to a guy, Ziggy Ansah, that played for BYU when I was at Boise State. It was his first year playing football, and he ran down kickoff. He played on the punt team, punt return team, and that was it. But he ran track for BYU, but he was 6'5", 270, and he ended up getting drafted in the top 5 of the draft because he developed as a football player. And we saw a lot of similar traits. Like, he was new to the game, so you saw that, but you also saw strength, power, and traits that you knew that you could develop into a really good player.
He stuck out. We had a chance to see some video, and you see guys like him who are tremendous athletes, and you talk about the traits. A lot of times those guys, they're so good they could just run around people. He doesn't just do that.
Yeah.
As a young guy, hasn't played much football.
Right.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, he's special.
Looking at like the biggest moments in our lives is we're older. It's like getting married, having kids, buy a house or something like that. For these teenagers, like, this is the biggest day of their life, or back in December when most of these guys or all of these guys put the pen to paper, the biggest moment of their lives. What's it like to kind of be kind of a person that makes those dreams come to reality, where it's the recruiting process is the biggest decision that they're going to make to this point in their lives? Yeah,
it's exciting. I mean, I've experienced a lot of them. You would rather a casual one than an overly exciting one. But, for us, you're always going to have a couple that you are trying to sway through signing day. And, no, it's exciting. It's changed a ton. I mean, I can think back to a lot of experiences where on signing day you're watching ESPN, you really don't even know what's going to happen. And they put your hat on, a team where you work for or not. But, no, it is exciting. And I think the one thing that we really set out to do, we accomplished the goal because we got a bunch of really, really good kids that are great football players. And that's really the goal with signing day. And we went for quality over quantity. There's a lot of schools that are going to sign 30 players. But for us, it's important for us to retain our players on our roster. And we had a lot of guys graduate, and we thought we had a lot of guys that were great players in the program. And so not only were we excited about signing day, but we're also excited about the team that we have coming back and a lot of those players that we retained. It's changed a lot throughout the years, and we're definitely excited about this signing class. We think we got a lot of good players, and we addressed a lot of needs, and the future's bright.
Yeah.
So talk, if you would, about what you've been doing this long enough now at a really high level, obviously with some universities and great head coaches and staffs and that type deal. 2 or 3 things that have really changed over the last 10 years that really stick out to you, besides VHS tapes, no longer,
right.
that type of deal. But, what are some of the things that really have changed?
Yeah. No, I mean, VHS tapes, being one of them. But, no, I was saying earlier that guys used to send DVD tapes in, and really, like, the information came from high school coaches to the assistant coaches. And now we have access to so much more information than we used to. So I can sit at my desk and get high school coaches that call me, or trainers that call me, and they can just film on their phone workout drills that I'm able to see a lot of information on. So you don't have to rely on our coaches going on the road to get those tapes they used to get and bring in. And then obviously the obvious things are portal, NIL, But even the little stuff like information. I mean, you used to have to wait a long period of time, and high school coaches would send DVDs to your position coaches, and then we would take it and type up as much information as we could find on the kid. But now we have so much more access to information, so we can make quicker decisions on guys as we find out information. And for us, that makes our positions, in my opinion, more valuable, where it used to be only the position coaches could give you information, but now we can get information from a lot of our recruiting staff members that do such a great job year round. So,
and being chief of staff, there is a big staff that goes into not just recruiting, but everything else. Recruiting is a relationship business at the end of it, and you've got to have a lot of trust with the people that you work with in recruiting, and the coaching staff with Coach Lanning and the assistants. They also have to trust you. How do you go about building that trust and kind of creating this recruiting monster that you guys have here at Oregon?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think that it really starts with Coach Lanning, and he's awesome. I mean, really, whenever I worked with him at Georgia, and I knew that when he became head coach that he signed like 8 players at Georgia his first year, and the number 1 player in the country, that's Nolan Smith. He'll play in the Super Bowl this year. And then he signed Jermaine Johnson, that was the number 1 JUCO player in the country at his position group. But not only that, he signed a bunch of other great players. Both those guys stick out because they were first-round picks. And so I knew that he was going to be special. And one of the things that's great about Coach Lanning, he's always willing to learn, listen, and take in information. And so for us, our process is really, he'll take information from anybody. Like, there's a ton of our recruiting staff members that have a ton of input because they talk to these guys and they build relationships with the family. And so, for us, we have a process that we go through, and it really starts with Coach Lanning. He's great to work for, and especially as a recruiting staff member.
What do you like most about what you do?
Great question. Probably watching film.
Yeah.
That's the core of why we all get into this, because we love watching football.
Yeah, we do too.
Yeah. A lot of these coaches are like, it's important to change guys' lives and all those things. But you get into it because you love football, and then those are the things that you really that mean the most to you once you get into it. But I love football, and I love being around the guys, and being around a staff that is chasing something special. So
how much of it is all we see is highlights? That's what kids are posting, is highlights.
Right.
How much do you actually just get into, we're going to watch a full game, see how this guy reacts, not to, a 60-yard touchdown, but what is he like on 3rd down and long when he doesn't get the ball?
Yeah,
how
we
much
do
of
that.
Do you do?
Yeah, we do a lot of that, and there's a lot of detail that comes with it. And we see all these guys in camps, whether we go to satellite camps or they come to our camp. Like, DeCorian Moore came to our camp 2 times in a row, and watching him compete not only at wideout but at corner, he was going up against some of the best wideouts in the country at our camp as a cornerback, and then watching him, dominate our camp as a wideout. So those
traits, right?
Traits. Yeah. So he was special watching it, and so how much do we watch game tape? That's super important, and it's really important to get information from high school coaches still. And like, now that there's NIL, like, everybody thinks that you just take the best players and you try to buy them, but like, money makes you more who you are. So to me, if you're a bad kid, you become a worse kid if you get money, and if you're a great kid, you become a better kid. Yeah. And so for us, like, we're looking for great people first and foremost, and that's one thing that's super exciting about this class. Like, we have 90% of them here already, and they're in the weight room right now. Coach Lanning and I walked in there, and those guys are grinding, super excited. Like, and not only that, they're running really fast and throwing around a lot of weight, and there's a lot to be excited about. There's a lot to be excited about this freshman class, but not only that, the guys that we have coming back. So we got a special crew.
Marshall, we appreciate the time, and you guys are well down the road for the 2026 recruiting class.
Yeah.
Do you get downtime before you guys start getting into closing season with the 2026 class?
Yeah, February is a great month for us, and NCAA got they get some stuff right. And one of the things they got right was the February dead period. And so which means that you can really focus on your own team and you get weekends off. So there's really two months of the year where you get weekends off. I mean, we probably get like 12 weekends off a year, but two of the months being July and February where we get the weekends off. Like we got vacation coming up in February where we get Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday off, which is great. And you know, for the 2026 class, yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about. Year one, we weren't even thinking about the next recruiting class. We were all focused on the recruiting class at hand. Now we're talking about 2027s, 2026s, because, you know, we've been here a handful of years now. And so we're off to a great start with the 2026s. And one of the things that's great about the 2026 class is I think if this is the most West Coast talent that we've seen since we've been here. And there are a ton of great players on the West Coast where we'll still try and recruit nationally, but this is the first time, in my opinion, where you could win a national title with this class with just recruiting West Coast kids.
Wow.
And you can't – we haven't been able to say that yet, but I'm telling you, this 2026 West Coast class is special. And we had a board meeting yesterday, and we talked through all these guys, and we got a lot of relationships, and we've had a lot of players on campus in this 2026 class that are going to be NFL players, which hopefully they're Duck NFL players.
That's
but,
right. That's
you know,
right.
so we're excited about the 2026.
That's exciting. That's
Well,
exciting here.
This class is represented by a bunch of states all across the country.
That's right.
And for 2025, we move on to 2026, where hopefully we have a lot of West Coast flavor to it.
That's right.
And Marshall, we appreciate the time, man. Thank you so much for coming on with this. Marshall Malco, Chief of Staff for the Oregon Ducks.
Thanks so much for having me, guys.
There
This
he
is
is.
awesome.
Good to have you.
I'm going to get some McDonald's, maybe a double
That's right.
cheeseburger later.
That's right. Remember, it's a $7 double cheeseburger with the McDonald's app. And this is the McDonald's National Signing Day show. Look, the Oregon Ducks are continuing to roll on. And you hear about where the ground floor, and Marshall does such a good job of explaining kind of how this program identifies talent, the process of it. 2025 started in 2024, 2023. And it's crazy to think about.
It starts so early. And the thing that I really like about what he ended that with in talking about the talent on the West Coast and in the western part of the country is that he's a guy who has seen it across the country.
Yeah.
You know, he's been to different places. He's coached and recruited, or basically recruited and been in a similar type of position at where? Georgia, Alabama, Texas A&M. I mean, you look at some of those blue bloods that he's been with, and to be able to come out west and now to be able to say that, and you know, it's exciting. Obviously, those recruits are targets of other big-time schools, but at the same time, to be able to establish what Oregon has and continue to build and then add to it, I think is just really, really exciting.
Well, this class this year, you think of it, you know, it's Oregon, Washington, Hawaii, or California, Texas, Florida. It spans
Ohio,
the entire country.
Coach.
And it's on both sides of the ball, special teams. And now we have joining us, everybody sees him putting on the YouTube stream here, Tosh Lapoy, defensive coordinator, and the Oregon Ducks defense, well represented this year on National Signing Day. Coach, thanks for taking a few minutes for us, man. How you doing?
It's good to be here. I just had to adjust the headset setting. My head's a little larger than Marshall's.
I thought you were going to say the opposite. So,
look, this is the culmination. We just got done talking with Marshall about, you know, this recruiting class and what it looks like from the large scale picture. Position by position, it can get pretty granular. But for you as a defensive coordinator, what are some of the traits you are looking for as a whole that just fit your defense regardless of position?
Yeah, we want to start out with just the competitive nature of an individual. So both, you know, we want to see that on his film, how relentless and competitive he is, mental and physical toughness. And then from there, we're looking for traits of leadership, football IQ, and adaptability. So those 5 things are going to be the part of the early process of evaluating these young ballers.
we'll get a chance here to look at some of the video highlights of the recruits and that type of deal. But just from a 50,000-foot view, how do you feel about the group? Defensive side of the ball in particular.
Fired up. Yeah, no doubt. You know, as soon as we don't perform the way we want to after an elite season, you internalize that pain, and then that's immediately where my thoughts, were directed, were about the future and both what we have and, the guys that we've been developing for either 1 to 2 seasons that have been here that we've signed over these last few years, and then this young group coming in, or that's already here, practicing with us. So I'm really excited about their potential.
A lot of what Marshall was telling us about was you guys have a lot of value in the guys that are on this roster. And so what you guys valued in this recruiting class was, not numbers in a lot of guys. It was the value of them and how good they are as football players. 8 guys coming in from high school on the defensive side of the ball. We'd love to get your thoughts on them because 4 of them are in the back end. And let's start with, one of the cream of the crop defensive backs in all of high school football that put pen to paper. Naeem Offord, what did you see out of this young man? And as we're going to throw up some film, what impressed you about this young man from Alabama?
Yeah, well first off, the size-speed combination. We want to see a guy that performs well in a man-to-man coverage. Someone just like you see there as a willing open field tackler and someone that can play the ball out there in the field. And anytime a guy's lining up at, whether it's wildcat, quarterback, tailback, receiver, typically they have a high what we call ball excellence. So that jumps off on his film everywhere. But, there's a guy that you roll up your sleeves and you fly into Birmingham, Alabama, and sometimes you might be thinking, all right, we're really going to go beat out, the University of Alabama and Auburn, and we did, So he's a guy that's that was willing to travel to go get what he wants, and just pumped about the future with him.
Is he a guy you can line up in that defensive secondary at multiple positions?
I think he's capable of that. We've recruited him to play corner. He's a guy, in our system that whether the corner or what most people refer to the nickel, what we call our star in our position, like this guy certainly has versatility, and then the physicality he's shown too. I wouldn't have any reservation, with putting him at any one of the 5 spots. But, I think he has a dynamic skill set and has a great opportunity to play corner for us.
In the secondary, you want to call it a no-fly zone, but you were flying all over the country to get some of these guys. Brandon Finney, you went from Alabama, then you go up to Maryland to identify a long corner in Brandon Finney. Great ball skills from this young man.
Yep, another guy that when you're watching him earlier in the process, you're just telling yourself whether it's corner or receiver, and we actually, I know our offensive staff, every time this guy would come up, would remind him, in back rooms that he could play receiver for us. So, again, size-speed combination, checking off those boxes, willing tackler in open space, has the ball excellence demonstrated over and over at that receiver position as well, and then can play the ball, So love those qualities of him. One of the fastest players in the nation, competed in the 60 and the 200, and, a guy that reminds me of some of the greats that have been fortunate to coach in the past.
A lot of things you can teach, obviously, as coaches, whether he's at receiver or at DB, but length is something you can't teach, and be able to find that in a guy like this is really important.
That's right. He's got it.
Yeah. We had 2 guys that are already on campus as early enrollees. Dorian Brew, who signed in that December class and was already on campus. What did you see out of the product from Texas?
He's another individual where you got to roll your sleeves up and ask yourself, we're going to devote and spend a lot of time recruiting him. And, when his mother attended Ohio State and had a great career there as a hurdler, sometimes you might second guess that, but we didn't. And, competed our butt off to get this guy from, the best programs in the country, including that one I just mentioned. So Dorian is versatile individual. What's exciting about him is comes from a great program, and what we're going to ask of him, you see that demonstrated on his film. So it's always a good reassuring part of the process. and this guy's going to attack you. He's not going to shy away from contact. He's an individual. When you see him, he kind of looks like a safety posture, and early in the process, I think some people recruited him to do that. We've recruited him to play corner for us, and feel like he's got the skill set that matches what we want to do.
Trey McNutt, you mentioned going into that state of Ohio, you get one of the best safeties in the entire country in Trey McNutt, a guy who can play at the line of scrimmage and in the back end 25 yards deep.
That's right. Straight out of Shaker Heights. And feel like, this guy he's above average in the man-to-man coverage that he's demonstrated. You can see this over and over of him diagnosing and coming downhill and striking, setting edges, tackling guys in space. I think he's got some rare qualities of some change of direction ability in space as a bigger, longer guy. So he's there with us now. We worked out together yesterday morning, and he was playing with some dominoes at dinner last night after our Get Real session, and all in and excited to work with him.
Not often you're able to land 4 quality DBs like this. I mean, that's a great class that you guys been able to bring in at those positions right there. What are 2 or 3 of the keys, Coach, that you saw while you went through the recruiting process from beginning to end that landed these guys?
Well, I think just a great job overall by our staff, and what we want to do is we want to get these guys on campus. I think a lot of programs a little bit may shy away from getting these guys around your own players or some players that might not be happy. We do the opposite. We want to get these guys around our players as much as possible, and feel confident in what they're going to say about us, and not. We want a committed guy with a like mindset. So guys that want to be great, want to compete at the highest level, want to get drafted high and developed and compete for a national title, and be in a place that doesn't have a whole lot of distractions, and be around a bunch of teammates that have that alike mindset. So I think these guys, all 4 of them, kind of personified those attributes.
Defensive coordinator Tosh Lupoy with us on National Signing Day show presented by McDonald's. The couple of edge rushers coming in this class, and so a guy that Marshall brought up is I want to get your thoughts on Toby Hastrup. You get essentially a blank slate, a young man who has all of the gifts and physical tools that you could ask for, but he's only been playing football for a year. What excites you about this young man?
Yeah, I think typically recruiting a guy like Toby that hasn't played a whole lot of football but has some elite measurables and size, speed, length, edge set ability. Usually you look at a guy and you say, all right, his top end potential is super high. We're going to have to go through a bunch of learning curves and teaching. But when you watch his film, I don't really see that with Toby. You see a guy that strikes tight ends, throws them on the ground like you're seeing here, demonstrates power, playing his position well. So what the surprise about Toby is he has some elite measurables and traits, but he plays football really good. He does what's most important. So excited about him. He's one of the few guys that's not here yet and will be coming aboard here in the summertime. But just visited him on the road. He's doing a great job training. And, we've got to get Toby to stop wearing so many schmedium shirts because his muscles are like bursting out of him.
A guy that can run, too. And, Coach, you just talked about traits, and that's exactly what Marshall talked about when he was in here before. I mean, not just the traits at the line of scrimmage, but plays that happen downfield that he shows up on, too. Amazing, the effort, isn't it?
Yeah, that's, it starts there, as I answered earlier, is about his compete and relentless effort. So, we're not going to watch much more film on a guy if we don't see that jumping off the film early.
Yeah. Matthew Johnson from De La Salle as well coming in. The defensive line is so important to what you guys do, and this guy has been a wrecking crew in the middle, and he's a West Coast guy too.
It's always exciting to be able to recruit the greatest high school on earth. So it starts there. An elite culture fit. This guy, we feel like one of the questions we're going to ask is, will this guy buy into our culture? And then a few times when you can get the unanimous answer of this guy's going to drive your culture, that fires you up. So that with a combination, he's a powerful individual, but this is a great example of anything you ask Matt Johnson to do, he's going to do it. So I don't know, the day he left high school, he was already starting that trend. I think he was in the 260s. We just weighed him in at 291, and I saw him win a big man contest of a 10-yard sprint yesterday. So tremendously excited about, the direction of where this guy's already headed. But feel like he's a guy with versatility as well that we can ask to possibly play in the C area as a big end and reduce down and, win some one-on-one matchups versus guards in the pass rush situations.
A couple of other guys that signed to this staff this class that rounded out in the linebacking core, both Nasir Wyatt and Gavin Nix. What do you look for in that linebacking core and kind of the traits for the guys that these Wyatt and Nix both fill?
Well, Nasir, arguably has the most explosive A to B evidence on his film. This guy's got tremendous burst, unique from that standpoint of rushing on the edge. I don't know, after the Washington game, I know we were number 3 in the country in sacks, and a lot of those sacks are from power rushes and counter rushes, which we love. This is a guy with true juice that is able to beat, tackles and 7-man protection around the edge. So it's a exciting element, and anytime you get a guy from a national championship caliber program, that fires me up. Gavin, true inside backer, but what I loved about Gavin, the early part of his process is literally checking off every single box in the job description of what we're asking him to do. We do some unique things with our linebackers. A big part of that is being the best communicator on the field. That's what Gavin does, but as you see, he's going to rush off the edge. He's going to carry 3 vertical and some of our coverage concepts, and he did that consistently at IMG, another high-caliber program. So, but this guy's committed, extremely intelligent. So to combine that with his athletic talent, he's a guy that, could have an opportunity to make an early impact, based on what we've seen so far.
Well, we'll let you get back to the weight room and all these guys that are working out. We're looking forward to seeing all 8 of these guys show up in Ducks uniforms coming up this fall.
You're saying that because of my physique? You're assuming I lift every day?
Yeah, that's right. Maybe we need to get you some more of those medium shirts.
Wait till you see Will Stein.
There we go. And
you talk about just a walking stallion.
Coach, thanks for coming in and spend some time with us.
Tosh Lapoy, defensive coordinator for your Oregon Ducks, talking about this year's class on the National Signing Day show presented by McDonald's. And it's brought to you by the McDonald's app. Download the McDonald's app today and earn free food with every purchase and score a $7 bacon double cheeseburger meal. We go from the defensive side of the ball over to the offensive side of the ball. Will Stein, the offensive coordinator for your Oregon Ducks. Coach, how's it going today?
Do you guys have enough McDonald's over there?
We do. Yeah, go ahead, get some.
Man, we just had an ad. Now I got a bunch of sandwiches over here. It looks good.
We know you got your eye on it. It's okay.
I do.
Just go over and get
on the
some.
way out.
Go
on
get
the
it.
way out.
Coach, we asked this to Coach Lapoy, and you go positionally. It can get granular with what you look for in each guy, from position group to position group. What are the traits you look for an offensive player, regardless of position, that fits in with your Oregon offense?
I mean, I think it goes back to our DNA traits. It always does. Can they be a connected teammate? Number one, are they a good person? How physically tough are they and mentally tough? That's huge. Are they growth mindset oriented, and do they want to sacrifice for the team? So we always start off with those traits in mind. Obviously, the tangible stuff, size, weight, speed are critical factors to us having success on the field. But to me, you got to love it. You have to. This is such a hard game. We spend so much time at the facility. We practice a ton. If you don't truly love football, you're not going to last in this program. So that is a major factor to us and to what we look for in a recruit.
Talk about how you balance need position, from year to year, it's tough to tell who's going to be here, who's not. You know who's going to be graduating. You got some guys that develop them up through the program. So talk about how you as a coaching staff, and yourself look at need, want, or sometimes is it go get the very best at every position that we can?
Yeah, I mean, Coach Lanning says it all the time. In the NFL, you only get one first-round draft pick. In college football, you have the ability to sign 25 first-round draft picks for us. So we always want the best, and we always feel like we need the best, but balancing a roster it's extremely important in today's college football. You have to be adaptable. You have to be able to make changes on the fly. But here at Oregon, we've been blessed to be able to recruit the best and sign the best. And then I think our recruiting staff and Marshall Malco and Tyler Dean and Pat Biondo, those guys do a phenomenal job throughout the entire year of identifying prospects, getting early evals on them, sending us out on the road to see them in person, and then choosing the best people that fit our program. So it's a constant battle, constant process that we go through, 365 days a year.
Yeah.
Let's get to this class then. You mentioned having the guys at size, speed, and the abilities. Wide receiver DeCorian Moore, he's been a guy that elite ball skills, elite speed. What stands out to you, and what are you excited for to see in DeCorian Moore?
Well, I think with great receivers and a guy like DeCorian, it's what he does when the ball is in his hand. A lot of guys can run and catch, but you see right here, I mean, the ability to make people miss in space, to become a running back with the ball in your hands, and then to go score touchdowns. The run after the catch is extremely impressive with DeCorian. I think he's got a high football IQ. He comes from a phenomenal program in the state of Texas at Duncanville, plays in the highest level of football in that state. He's a state champion. He runs track. Marjan, his mom, is a phenomenal woman. And, really excited about DeCorian and what he can do for us. And with all these kids that we brought in, we feel like they give us the ability to potentially play early for us just because of, their size, weight, speed. And then a lot of these kids, like I talked about, they love the game. They really do love the game. So I'm excited about DeCorian, and he's been on campus already working out, and it'll be fun to watch his progress.
Cooper Perry, another wide receiver coming in this class out of the state of Arizona, brings a specific skill set, and you look at him, he's got some shake, but he's also pretty bruising. You mentioned running back with the ball in DeCorian Moore. Cooper Perry's got a little bit of that in him.
He does. I mean, he's the best player in the state of Arizona. You think about all these guys. We got a lot of the best in their state, and he's one of them. Again, run after the catch is elite. Football IQ is extremely high. Ability to make catches in tight windows and be courageous over the middle. And just another kid that really loves the game, works his tail off every single day, and somebody that we're really, really, really excited about in his future here at Oregon.
What do you like most about him, Coach? You mentioned a whole bunch of things. Is there a couple things you really kind of zero in on?
I mean, I think he's an elite route runner, and again, you're seeing now his ability to take a simple smoke throw or spot pass or a hitch and take it the distance. I mean, whenever you look at receivers, again, especially high school players that want to come play at Oregon, you have to have the ability to score touchdowns on a simple throw. It's not just the go balls in the post that get the fans all excited. It's a simple smoke screen or a hitch like you're seeing here, and being able to take it the distance and break tackles.
You are a quarterback and a successful one in your own right. You coach the quarterbacks, and you got a pretty dang good one. That Duck fans is a name they're very familiar with. Keely Smith Jr. coming in to play quarterback for this Oregon program. What excites you about a legacy Duck coming in?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you think about Keely Smith and his name, you think about his dad. But I'm really excited for, it goes by KJ, but excited about him and him making his own name for himself. Another highly intelligent kid. From the minute we started recruiting him, he'd come on recruiting trips and bring his notebook and take notes. So he loves it. He's all about football. And his best years are ahead of him. I mean, he's a tall kid, 6'5", can run it, can throw it. Another kid, in the terms of state champion, played at the highest division in California football, and played his best against the best competition. He's got an elite deep ball. He was an Elite 11 quarterback. I mean, you name it, he's done it, and he's humble, he's hungry, and really excited about KJ and where he's going to take this program.
And the importance of him being here early is really good too, isn't it?
It's vital, and nobody really enrolls in summer anymore. That's kind of a lost thing in high school football, or really in college recruiting, because spring ball is so important. Our winter walkthroughs are so important. So, yeah, he's going to have a leg up being here early, and we're going to start our walkthroughs here soon and get rolling.
Running back room is something that's always special at the University of Oregon and the long legacy of them, and it continues to roll on with Bucky Irving's great rookie year, Jordan James heading off to the NFL draft. And looking at this running back class, Jordan Davison and De'Aaron Hill, they both come in. What stands out to you about the two backs that you got and the dimensions they can bring to your own?
Well, yeah, you talk about like playing elite competition. I mean, Jordan played at Mater Dei. They have an extremely tough schedule, maybe the toughest in the country. Another kid that played his best on the biggest stage. So has elite contact balance, can take a 2-yard gain to a 40-yard touchdown quickly. He's a big kid. If you just look at his build, he's got tree trunks for legs. So he's a guy that's going to be able to make people miss, but then get the tough yards when needed. The big thing for him is to continue to work his game out of the backfield. We love to throw it to our backs, but Jordan's going to be a great player. And then you see De'Aaron Hill. De'Aaron's got home run hitting ability out of St. Louis, a kid that committed to us and stayed committed even though everybody in the country wanted him. But he's an elite returner as well, and the kick return and punt return game. Can catch the ball out of the backfield, and again, he can take a simple run, 60 yards in a hurry.
Tight end is grown. Terrence Ferguson, he leaves rewriting the record books as tight ends. Vander Plug, where if you were just recruiting by name alone, you'd probably offer the kid, but he also has a unique skill set that he brings to the table.
Great kid, great family, has height, has speed, got to continue to put on weight. But again, glad he's here early for us. He can line up in a flex position and like an X position and run individual routes. He can put his hand in the dirt and also attack the middle of the football field. But like with anything, tight end position is a lot like offensive line, where got to continue to get bigger, faster, and stronger because you're going to be blocking Mateos and Tatums of the world at the point of attack. But Vander's got an extremely high upside. And again, I'm going to go back to this kid loves football, loves it, and we took him from a team that we don't like so much either. So that was a fun get for the Ducks.
Bringing in 5 offensive linemen, you mentioned guys that love football. Nobody loves football more than offensive linemen because they don't do it for any recognition at all.
That's right.
they do it just because of the game. What sticks out to you about the class of 5? You got to always bring in a bunch of offensive linemen, but this thing, you would say there are headliners, but it's all a very good class. Let's start with Douglas Utu, who an early enrollee who was there for bowl preparations as well.
They're big. big
Long,
boys.
too.
Yes, I mean, think about Big Ten O-line, like it looks that way, and physical, but also athletic. That's what I love. These guys can move. They have position flex. A lot of these kids can play tackle and guard, and even some will end up snapping for us, I'm sure, one day. But I think Alik and Cav do such a good job of cross-training guys. This is an offensive line group as a whole. Talked about Doug. Big kid, can play interior and exterior, can play tackle, guard. Zaire's got position flex as well from Florida. Nasty, excuse my French, ass kickers,
Yeah.
So that's what these kids are. They embody our culture. The O-line is, they're the guys that make us go. Even Eli from Orem, Utah, played at Bishop Gorman, playing against elite, competition. Eli will actually, we'll see him here in a few years. He's going on his mission as he's LDS, but we signed a great class. I think we signed the best class in the country. It allows us to have great depth at that position, which we all know you need in college football. And even a guy like Zach Stikowski, from right here in Oregon, it's best when you can keep the kids in the PNW and Oregon at home, especially when they're the caliber that we need to go win a national championship. So, it's a great group and great kids, high IQ, high character, and then physically imposing.
How much does that mean to you guys as a staff to have some of those local guys like Zach Stikowski who comes in? You mentioned keeping him here in the Pacific Northwest is an important thing. It's also in the state of Oregon. Few and far between that legitimate Big Ten University of Oregon type prospects come around.
It's huge. It's huge. I mean, you think about the Justin Herberts of the world, and even Ryan Walk, who's on our staff now. There's been extreme success here at the University of Oregon with guys that are from right around the area. I think it's about goes back to our evaluations, identifying that they can play here. And once we know that they can, and that's in any state, but once we know that they can play here, we'll do, we'll recruit our tails off to go get them. So, yeah, it's important. I think it gets fans even more excited about a local kid that's playing for their hometown Ducks, and even it brings the passion and the pride out from a guy like Zach, that he can instill that in all the other guys on our team. So it's important for sure.
The work never stops, but it begins with these guys in trying to melt the whole group together. How do you go about doing that? You get some guys here early. That certainly helps. But, what's aside from spring ball, what are some of the early things that you do to try to get these guys together?
Well, we did our since I've been off the road, we call it Get Real. It's every Wednesday night getting the guys together and talking about everything that's non-football and really trying to find that connection in our group. And, last night it was about growth mindset and about, your circle of people. And, 95% of your success or failure in life is directly associated to who you hang out with and who you're around. So hearing other people's stories in those Get Real sessions, where they come from, and like I said, creating that connection is huge. I mean, the most connected teams usually play the hardest, play the most physical, and show the most love out on the football field for each other. And that's one thing I think is really special and unique about us and what Coach Lanning has created is that culture. Culture is a very overused word in college football and in organizations across the world. Like, to me, we have our DNA traits: connection, growth, toughness, sacrifice. They're on our chest. You're not going to see them around the facility on all the walls like we've been in those college facilities before. Like, it's who we are. It's who we embody that. And, it starts in those Get Reals, really getting to know each other first, and then go play together on the field.
How much of that connection do you think it feeds off of the players feeling that you guys as coaches have that same kind of connection as well?
It's huge. I mean, we spend the most time in our lives around the coaches that I work with and these players, and it's a unique profession that we're in. I mean, I have my wife Darby, my little boy Joey, and little girl Demi, and I almost see the players more than I see them at times. And so it's important. I mean, you better like who you work with and like who you play with to have success at this level. We've been on teams that, might show success early on the season, but then the love for each other isn't what really it might show on paper. And then later in the season, you don't win because you don't really care about the people next to you. Here we do, and it shows to me in our play. If you put on our tape, guys are flying around on all three phases and laying it on the line for each other.
Coach Stein, we're excited about the next crop of Oregon Ducks on the offensive side of the ball. Thanks for taking the time, man.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
National Signing Day show.
Grab some food on the way out, by the way.
Yeah, get that McDonald's on your way out, all right? There's a weight room down there. You can run it off. You're good. National Signing Day show presented by McDonald's and offensive coordinator Will Stein talking about that group and that 11 guys coming in on the offensive side of the ball. Marshall Malco told us at the beginning of this thing, in this class, they coveted talent over the numbers of guys that they were bringing in. They got high-quality, high-caliber players, 11 on offense, 8 on defense from the high school recruiting class.
Yeah, and out west a lot. West, again, him talking about the talent West Coast, probably the best it's been in a long time, and they landed a lot of them right there, and impressive ones too. So. Well,
we got the head coach, and we're not going to keep him waiting. Coach Dan Lanning, how's it going, Coach?
Doing good. How are you guys?
Doing fantastic. This is the day that not a lot of fireworks today because everybody was signed, sealed, and delivered back in December. But what does it feel like to kind of go through this process again? Marshall talked to us a lot about, year one, you guys were basically treading water, trying to explain what Oregon football is under your guidance. Now that you've gone through this a few times, how does it feel to go through these signing days in this signing period?
Yeah, it's fun. It's always great to be able to add, high quality people that are also high quality players to your program. But early on, we were certainly talking about a vision that we had. Right now, it's kind of proofs in the pudding. Right, this is what you're going to be able to do when you come here, compete with the best of the best, and play for some of the best of the best, and become the best version of yourself. So it's fun to see it come to fruition.
Before we get kind of some summary from you on some of the players and type deal positions, talk about Marshall, if you would, his importance.
Yeah.
I mean, he does so much, even just outside of recruiting, doesn't he?
Yeah, and there's so many people that support Marshall, and Marshall will be the first one to tell you it's the people that he has around him that makes his job special. But, he's our chief of staff, so he wears a lot of hats, right? And he's probably the guy that I lean on the most when it comes to decisions throughout the program, regardless if it's just recruiting, but also personnel, our staff, vision, messaging. He helps me out a ton, and he's an unbelievable person, but takes a lot of pride in what he does and sees it from the proper lens.
One thing that everybody has mentioned is you guys, in your evaluation, you want to find guys that love football.
Right.
How do you go about finding that competitive streak and finding out that love of football? Because you walk into a high school, and a lot of times the coach is going to tell you, this guy loves football. The player's going to tell you he loves football. How do you truly find that out in guys?
Yeah, I think you got to dig a little deeper, right? One, more maybe than just football, is what's their competitive spirit, right? So we're always going to try to find something that's going to allow us to compete with a kid, whether you're playing, tic-tac-toe or checkers, whatever that might be, you're going to find something that can give you that, an advantage and an idea. How does this guy compete, right? And then you dig into the details, right? What is this guy's habits away from the field? Do they want to be a guy that can really compete for championships? Because guess what? Champions have championship habits. So you try to peel back the layers and understand that everybody has a different voice in this, and they might say the right things, but you got to be able to read through it and see the tea leaves and be able to identify what you're looking for.
Talk about, if you would, Coach, just the strategies you guys take each year. And I know probably the strategy of who you target, positions you target, is fluid because you just don't know from year to year what you're going to have and what you're not going to have. So talk about that a little bit of how you adjust on the run.
Well, I think the one thing that's changed is the standard to play at Oregon's higher now than it was, 3 years ago, right? So we're always looking to improve, right? We're not looking to get the same. So the standard of play has gone up here, and that means the caliber of athlete that we're trying to target to play for us has gone up. And it starts there, right? Not lowering your standard and making sure that you're going to get guys that you feel like give you a competitive edge when you step out there on the football field. So that adjusts. And then what you look for is the game change, right? Recruiting the position of linebacker has changed today compared to, what it was 10 years ago. And you look at like some of the guys that have had a lot of success for us here, Jeff Bassa, Bryce Betcher, some of these guys that have come to us, a lot of them were safeties when they first came out of high school, and they grew into that position. So, that's a great example of how the game changes, and you have to adapt to times as they change.
This roster and building it and turning it over is a lot of it is recruiting high school kids. Everybody wants to talk about the portal, but it is building and growing athletes as they come up. You mentioned we want to go and get the best. When you have a line of guys that are all the best, how do you get that competitiveness to come out and see that separation from freshmen all the way up to when they're playing as sophomores, juniors, seniors?
Yeah. It is. You dig it. We call it recruiting, but it's really about relationships. I think it all starts there, right? And you could have a special connection, and not everybody's a fit, right? Yeah. Not everybody's a fit for us, and we're not a fit for everybody. So you try to find the people that, the most things are going to, coincide. And it's going to make sense that it's a symbiotic relationship where it's like we're going to help you grow, and you're going to grow, you're going to help us grow as a team. And when you find guys that fit, that mold, I think it makes it really easy to identify. And then you want to go out there and battle for the best. And how do you do that? Like I said, proof's in the pudding. You got to make sure that you're showing a product that's going to make these guys get better. Is
there a sense of pride with the amount of retention that you guys have with your guys' roster, and there's not people walking out the door? Yeah,
I think that's maybe one of the most important things. Is as valuable as it is to go get great players to come join your program, it's more important to be able to develop and grow them. Yeah. And if you've seen our team over time, you've noticed the portal's become smaller and smaller piece of our development and our growth as a team. And high school recruiting has become really big and continue to be really big. But, again, the ability to retain great players, that's just as important as anything else you do.
You've been doing this long enough that a lot of things have changed. And I can throw out NIL, the portal, various things like that kind of jump out obviously. What are the 2 or 3 things, if you can think of, that have changed the most for you since you have become a coach, the programs you've been at, obviously all the different things that have changed with college football?
Yeah, I think the biggest
besides
thing,
VHS tape,
yeah.
by the way.
The game's changed a lot, but I would just say more than anything, there's more power that belongs to the player now, right? And I think that reveals character. It reveals the real identity of your program as well, right? Guys aren't going to be here if they don't feel like they enjoy being here. They're being developed and they're taken care of, right? That's all part of college football now, and your ability to adapt as a coach is really important. But you can't coach guys the way that a lot of people have coached in the past, and I think if you coach them the right way, they want to be here. They want to be a part of that. If you don't, sometimes that's revealed, and guys leave, right? And then, sometimes there is transition. That might be the right thing for certain players, to go find new life somewhere else. But we've been really fortunate to be able to keep the guys we had. And as coaches, I think we've done a really good job of adapting. We got an unbelievable staff that realizes coaching today is different than it was, coaching 15 years ago. And if you can continue to adapt, show how you have value for the players, they want to be a part of that.
Coach Dan Lanning with us on the National Signing Day show presented by McDonald's. This class is regarded as one of the top classes in the country by the recruiting services. The fans are really excited about it. What's exciting you about this recruiting class of high school football players coming to B-Ducks?
Yeah, you said it. They're really talented players. They all came from different places, right? Certainly there's a good amount from the West Coast, but we will travel across the nation to find the right guys. I think they all came here with the right mindset. And now I'm just excited to get to work with them, right? They've been doing some work in the weight room already. Some of the guys that are here, we still have a few that will be joining us later on, but the build now, right? I mean, all the stars, they stay at home. You don't take those out of the field with you, right? So anything you accomplish in high school doesn't really matter now. It's about what you accomplish now. So seeing that growth from those guys here is really important.
Any two-sport athletes in this group?
Yeah, we've got a few as far as that'll be competing. We got some guys that might be doing track as well.
When you look at recruiting guys, does that two-sport athlete mean something to you? Is that something, an identifier for you guys to see guys that compete in multiple sports?
We certainly love it, right? And obviously we've had some success with guys, here that were able to do it, right? Whether it's, Bryce Betcher is a great example, or if you think of the 4x1 team a few years ago that was all football players, right, here running track. So we love having guys that can play multiple sports. But, some places are different when it comes to that and their ability to do it at high schools. But I've always felt like that's an asset in recruiting when you can recognize guys do multiple things. It's fun for us. Just coming off the road in January, we get to go out there and watch some guys compete in basketball or wrestling as well.
What does the February look like for you guys now with that this class, signing day has happened? 2026, you guys have already been working on 2026 really hard. Yeah. What does February look like? Marshall was telling us that, the NCAA got something right in having a dead period in February. Yeah. But what does it look like for you guys moving forward?
Well, taking advantage of that dead period, right?
Yeah.
One, for our coaches, they've been kind of working nonstop since July, and the recruiting never stops. You're still going to have those phone calls and those conversations, but give them an opportunity to be around their families, right? Because we talk about, building championships. So I also want to have championship fathers and husbands on our staff. So giving them a chance to be able to spend some time with their family and then pour into the guys that are here. A lot of us have been gone the entire month of January. So getting to be around the players that we have on our team now, continue to develop those relationships and grow those guys.
A lot to like about both sides of the ball, offense, defense.
Yeah.
But the story about Toby Hastrup, I mean, talk about that a little bit, if you will, because that gets me excited. I think gets a lot of people excited. And he's a legitimate, big-time potential player.
Yeah, he's got an unbelievable amount of talent. He's one of the guys that's not here yet that we're really excited to get here post spring. But obviously, unbelievable talent that I think is just becoming a fraction of the player that he's going to be. If you see him in person, you're going to say, okay, that guy looks like a football player. But he's a baby deer when it comes to experience. He hasn't been doing it as long, and obviously coming from different parts of the country and chasing a dream, to be able to play football and coming on late. So I think that's credit to Coach Samples, credit to, several of the coaches on our staff, staying in the thick of things and continuing to evaluate throughout the senior year and identifying a guy like Toby that can help us out.
As these guys are coming in, there was a group that went out. Senior Bowl down in Mobile, well represented by the Oregon Ducks. Can you kind of put into words what those guys meant to you starting your career and to see them all shine down in Mobile, Alabama?
Yeah, they all did great. And I don't know if there was another team that had 6 guys competing in that game, but I feel like we probably had as many as any team, competing down there, but they did an unbelievable job. And we're so grateful for the time that they gave us. And it's fun when you talk about those guys. Some of those guys had a decision, do I come back or not? What's the future look like? And, I think all of them, appreciated the opportunity to come back, get better at football, spend time with their teammates, and they've all performed really well. So now our goal is to see how high every one of those guys can get drafted. And unbelievable humans that are also great football players that some NFL team is going to be really lucky to have.
Well, you mentioned being championship fathers. Men's Day, I saw on
I
Twitter.
saw that too,
Men's Day happened.
Men's Day was a success.
It was a success.
It was a success. Yeah, we.
Any winners?
Declared winners? Who do you think? I know. I'm going to compete in everything we do. So we started off the day. I had a meeting up here. So Sophia, we sent her on a little women's trip. So she left. So I was in charge of the boys. But I had a meeting up here. Once I got done with that, got the boys ready. We went and ate breakfast, and then the competition started. So I think we started off with laser tag, dominated. Then we had putt-putt. I won by a lot of strokes. Then we finished off with bowling, and I didn't realize I'm not good at bowling, but I was a lot better than them. So, so it's fun. No, it was a good day, and finished off with some. They wanted to show me anime, which I've never paid attention to anime, and we gave it a shot. It's not my cup of tea. So then I introduced them to Dirty Harry that night. So that was they enjoyed it.
Now the key to showing the kids Dirty Harry is.
Well, Mom was
Sophia
gone.
being on
yeah,
the
Mom was
women's
gone.
trip. That's how Dirty Harry happens right there.
Yeah, Mom was gone.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we were able to get,
Hey,
we got that
that's a
happen.
good pivot out of anime. My son is 8. He's tried the same thing. I'm out on it too.
Yeah.
Dirty Harry. I'm going to keep that one.
Yeah, hold on to it. 8, you probably need to wait a little bit, but soon.
Coach Lanning, congratulations. Another phenomenal class, and thank you for your time, man.
Yeah, thank you guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, Coach.
There it is. Coach Dan Lanning on the National Signing Day show presented by McDonald's. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and learning about this 2025 recruiting class for the Oregon
A lot
Ducks.
to
It's
look
been
forward
fun.
to, Dusty.
Hey, make
Lot to
sure.
look forward to.
I know you have it. I know the YouTube back there have it. Get that McDonald's app. Download the McDonald's app and earn free food with every purchase and score a $7 bacon double cheeseburger meal. All right, Duck Insiders coming up later on this afternoon. We'll see you guys later. Go Ducks.